Module 10, Ecology. Introduction. In this module, we're going to look at why creatures live where they do and how they live with each other. Think about this. You may know that rabbits are known for reproducing rapidly. So why isn't the earth overrun with rabbits? And one of the creatures that naturally feeds on rabbits is a fox. So why haven't the foxes eaten all of the rabbit population in the world? We will be studying these questions in this module. The field of ecology is the study of the interactions between living and non-living things. This is a branch of science that takes a look at how creatures are specially designed to live where they do and how they interact with other creatures around them. There are various realms, if you will, in ecology. A population is a group of interbreeding organisms coexisting together. A community is a group of populations living and interacting in the same area. An ecosystem is an association of living organisms and their physical environment. And a biome is a group of ecosystems classified by climate and plant life. These definitions begin with a narrow group and then get broader and broader in their expanse. The smallest group is the population, and because it includes interbreeding organisms, it only includes organisms of the same species. Multiple populations of differing species that are involved with each other make a community. And looking at many communities, along with the physical environment such as a forest or a valley, constitutes an ecosystem. Finally, the biome takes many ecosystems within a certain climate, including the plant life. You will learn that the creatures in an ecosystem are affected by the other creatures living there, and the physical components of that system also affect life. They are so interconnected that if one disappeared or drastically changed, then everything in the entire ecosystem could be devastated. The example in your text of an out-of-balance ecosystem is the story of what happened in Australia in 1859. A sheep rancher wanted to hunt rabbits on his property, but there were no rabbits living in Australia. So he wanted to ship some, a small bunch from England for his sport. He received 24 rabbits total and released them on his land. Within a period of 6 years, his land was overrun with 20,000 rabbits. Their population continued to increase and they began to feed on the grasslands. Well, the rancher's sheep couldn't eat the grass as fast as the rabbits, so they couldn't graze and starved. Why did this happen? It has to do with the ecosystems of Australia. The organisms that were native to that continent were living in a good balance, with the populations of the natural species remaining fairly constant. Adding rabbits into the ecosystem created a stress on this balance. This is because in England, there are several animals that naturally prey on rabbits for food. This is why it benefits rabbits to rapidly reproduce, so that even though there are so many creatures that feed on rabbits, there will always be enough rabbits to continue the population. But no creatures in Australia fed on rabbits, and without any predators, the rabbit population exploded. Now, the Australian government realized this was a critical situation. There were rabbits over 1,000 miles away from the original ranch, and they were devastating the natural grasslands that other animals relied on for food. So they first tried to hire exterminators and trappers to capture and kill the rabbits, but they could not reduce the populations enough. The government even built a great wall, which was a fence almost 4 feet high, extending 1,200 miles long, in an effort to contain the rabbits. But this didn't keep the rabbits from spreading and eating. Finally, the Australian government learned that there was a virus that harmed only the English species of rabbit that had been brought over to Australia. It was a deadly virus. So after much testing to make sure that it would not affect any of the native creatures on the continent, they released several infected rabbits into the Australian wild. Eventually, rabbits began to die in large numbers. It turned out that mosquitoes were biting the infected rabbits and spreading the infection to non-diseased ones. This greatly reduced the rabbit population, but it did not get rid of the rabbits completely. This is because as the rabbit population decreased, there were fewer mosquitoes who would find a diseased rabbit to bite. So there were fewer and fewer virus-carrying mosquitoes, and some rabbits were able to survive. So the rabbit population will likely never die out in Australia. But because of the introduction of the rabbit virus, their populations were finally controlled enough to prevent the eradication of the grasslands. Can you see how there's a critical balance between living things in the world? Just by adding or removing a creature in an ecosystem, the delicate equilibrium could be upset. Understanding the principles of ecology, then, is a very important part of the study of biology.